So many people have praised Walter Cronkite as a great and important and sincere TV newsman who ever lived, since he died last week at 92. And he was all of those things. So we put together two videos and a print piece from for your viewing pleasure today, viewing and reading pleasure. The first one was produced in 1972, and it was the first portable video, camcorder portable video that was ever shown on commercial TV, or any TV as far as we know. It was called 4 More Years. Interviewers were Megan Williams and Skip Blumberg, and Walter Cronkite was up above the floor of the Republican convention, kind of on his perch, you'll see. Well, that was the year that Cronkite was credited in a Quail research study as the most trusted man in America. We were independent. We needed to find out for ourselves. Someone called us even hippie journalists or even artists. But we had to find out for ourselves about Walter, and so we did. So check it out.
How much does feedback about, what kind of job you're doing influence what you do? Do you get information from people that you cover about how they feel about your reporting?
That is a very good question, and I wish I knew the answer to it. I like to think it has no effect, but I wouldn't swear to that. But I think that anybody being human, it's got to have a certain effect on your news coverage and judgment when you get a lot of complaints about something, or you're under pressure, public opinion pressure or something of the kind. You begin to wonder, well, am I right? Am I doing my journalistic job correctly, or are they right? All of this introspection that such things cause is not good for a journalist. I'll tell you that. And it'd be much better if it didn't pay any attention to it at all. And I think we don't, but I wouldn't swear to it. I don't think they ought to believe me. I don't think they ought to believe Brinkley or anybody else who's on the air, and I don't think they ought to get all their news from one television broadcast, or even all the news from television. They ought to read, and they ought to go to opinion journals and all the rest of it. And I think it's terribly important that this be taught in the public schools, because otherwise we're going to get to a situation, because of economic pressures and of other things, that television's all you got left. Yeah. And that would be disastrous. We can't cover the news in a half hour every evening. That's ridiculous.
I must say that as good as Cronkite was at what he did in an era long gone, he wasn't the only bright, decent, responsible network news anchor at the time. Actually, I thought it was usually more fun to watch David Brinkley reporting on another network, NBC. He said that he covered 11 presidents, 4 wars, 22 political conventions, 1 moon landing, 3 assassinations, 2,000 weeks of news, and other stuff on television over and 18 years of growing up in North Carolina. Brinkley wrote a book called Everyone is Entitled to My Opinion. Now, I don't think Walter would have done that. Watch this one and see some clips of David Brinkley's career and his wry sense of humor.
Today's news today. In Washington, politics is always a major industry, but lately it's been more so.
And be an eyewitness to the happenings that made history in the last 24 hours.
Today we had a cameraman at the White House spend the whole day making pictures of Mrs. Mamie Eisenhower. First, she greets 8 members of the Senior Girl Scout Troop 25 of Ridgewood, New Jersey. A little later in the day, 10 minutes later, here came the winner of the National Cherry Pie Baking Contest. Well, we are off to a flying start in many ways, Chet. I was a little staggered to see this convention start on time, and so were the delegates, because they weren't here. We were here in our not very commodious but most comfortable glassed-in booth. It used to be that Eastern money largely financed the Republican Party. Now, Chet, I believe you were telling me the other day about some Wall Street bankers.
First of all, I don't know too many Wall Street brokers and bankers.
Well, I might say you impressed me when you were telling it. I was led to believe you're widely acquainted in those circles. We do know that wherever our reporters go on the floor, they are followed by unidentified, faceless men who attempt to listen to everything they say. Political parties have more dignitaries per square foot than any other kind of institution in America. Kansas City has done a good job setting up for its first political convention since 1928. It has even emptied a barn, normally filled with sheep, run air conditioning into it, and made offices in it for Republicans. Apparently they think anybody who wears a Brooks Brothers suit and does not know how to tie a tie is a liberal.
He doesn't know how to tie a tie?
No, they're always crooked. A medical researcher has surveyed 1,000 narcotics addicts and found that only 8 of them were Republicans and 999 were Democrats. And if a campaigning politician could not make promises, he could hardly open his mouth. Curiosity, on the mall one spring day, we asked some visitors if they would sell us the film out of their cameras. It appears from the home movies that Washington shakes and trembles quite a lot, is sometimes out of focus. All these piles represent a part, just a part, of the paper flooding into the office of one member of Congress, one member, in a few months. Vienna is so much in love with its past, it refuses to leave it. The Viennese in the past didn't believe in too much work, and they still don't. In this town, if you don't move fast, you'll be run over by a swarm of chattering Chinese. This is a picture of a man going out to lunch. Egypt, the Sahara Desert, south of Cairo.
And David, thanks for these years of happy association and for being such an easy colleague to work with and for all the kindnesses.
Good night, Chet. And from Washington, thank you and good night for all of us at NBC News.
I was an early member of the Walter Cronkite fan club more than 30 years ago. It was founded by Robert Feeder, who himself became one of the most trusted journalists in America and a lifelong friend. You can click the link and read a beautiful piece that he wrote about his friend and his idol, Walter Cronkite.